Hello, everybody. A very, very warm welcome to the 2026 DTM season. We're about to get underway here at the Red Bull Ring after 6 months away after the end of that hugely dramatic and entertaining, astonishing season finale at Hockenheim for the 2025 season, where Anh Nguyen won the championship title with just a few corners to go. It's going to be a hard act to follow, but if anybody can do it, the DTM can. We're here for a slightly revised day of free practice sessions. Late last night, a very late change to the timetable meant that we've already had one early morning free practice session. We're going to have 3 free practices today. So I've had one already about an hour and a half ago. This is going to be a short free practice 2, about which I'll tell you more in a moment. And then 3 practice 3 is going to be at 4 o'clock this afternoon local time, which was the original time of free practice 2. So we weren't able to bring you the initial cars on track in free practice 1, but we're very much here for the rest of the day. And we're raring to get going. We're here at the Red Bull Ring in the Styrian Mountains, and despite the fact that we are in the spring, it's almost summer-like, the weather that we've got here. We've been very lucky. It's been cold and wet in the last week or so. It might be cold again next week, but for now, we are going to be most of the weekend, at least in the afternoons, pushing up to around about 22 degrees. There are still snow-capped mountains in the distance, as you can see. It's such a wonderful setting for a racetrack. It's such a cool track as well, 4.3 kilometres long, running in a clockwise direction with lots of undulation. Always provides some great entertainment when we get to the races. There's plenty of places to overtake. And we've got 21 of the best GT drivers in the world that are going to go head-to-head for this year's championship. As ever, it will be held across 8 weekends of racing, 16 races. We've got 21 drivers from 10 different countries: Germany, Italy, Austria, Denmark, the Netherlands, Switzerland, France and Belgium within Europe. South Africa, you might know that name, and India with Arjun Maini coming back. Kelvin van der Linde, of course, the South African, coming back into the championship after a year away, having been the runner-up 2 years ago to Mirko Bortolotti. There are 3 champions on the grid. Marco Wittmann, the 2014 and 2016 champion, having his best season for a number of years last year to finish 5th overall and almost spoil Anh Nguyen's party at the end of the season. Mirko Bortolotti, the 2024 champion, is back. And Thomas Preining, one of the 2 Austrian drivers on home soil this weekend, is here. He's the 2023 champion. Lucas Auer, who just missed out on the title last year to be a runner-up for the 2nd time in the DTM, is, of course, another of the local hopefuls here. On the grid, more than half of them are already proven race winners in the DTM, 11 of them with 64 race wins between them. So this session coming up is going to be 20 minutes long. The reason that the free practice timetable changed is that there was an official test here at the Red Bull Ring last week, at the end of which the cars were meant to do a balance of performance run where they all go on new tyres, they all have a set fuel load, and the cars drive as quickly as they can. And that helps the organisers to try and figure out what the best balance of performance ratio would be in terms of tweaking the power of the cars, adding potential weight to the cars or taking weight off the cars, changing ride heights, all that sort of thing. It didn't happen last week because it rained at the end of the test day, and then they took the decision that they're going to do it today. So this session is actually that session. It's the 20 minutes now where they're all going to run on brand new Pirelli tyres, and they're going to run with the same fuel load. So we should see some quick lap times, and then this afternoon it'll be back to normal free practice conditions. There's so much to talk about. We're so excited to get going again. And thank you very much for your company. My name's Chris Hartley. Up here in the commentary box with me, as always, is hello to Brian Oliver.
Hello, Chris. Hello, everybody around the world. Can you believe the very last lap of DTM racing that we saw was that insane lap at the Hockenheim Ring where we saw Anh Nguyen clinch the championship? We've not had a single racing lap since then, but we've had plenty of testing and already lots of surprises in testing. Plenty to talk about in the practice sessions that we've had already. The one this morning, well, Ben Durr certainly seems to be coming out on top in the McLaren. This track certainly suiting him. But I think there are going to be an awful lot of surprises, not just this weekend, but throughout the season. The first surprise, of course, was we all packed our salopettes and our snow jackets. And I wish I'd packed my shorts because it is really hot. It is glorious. You can actually, if you listen carefully, you can hear the birds tweeting in the background. A lot of wildlife around here at the Red Bull Ring. But we are ready to go wild out on track as the cars are now moving in for free practice.
Yeah, wildlife out trackside, some beasts about to go onto the track, all with around about 600 brake horsepower. Just a short, sharp free practice 2 session, as I mentioned. The cars all heading out there now, and it's a very changed look to the grid this year. 8 of the drivers that competed last year, including, of course, the 2025 champion Ayhan Nguyen, are not back this season. No Rennie Rast this year either, the 3-time champion. We've lost other frontrunners from last year's championship like Jordan Pepper and Jack Aitken, at least for this season. Hopefully they're going to be coming back. But we've got 5 drivers that weren't on the grid last year. One of them, as mentioned, the runner-up from the 2024 championship with unfinished business in the DTM, and he returns now, of course, as a BMW factory driver, having been an Audi driver with Abt last time we saw him in the DTM. Kelvin van der Linde coming back here after a pretty stunning debut season as a BMW driver last year, where he won just about every championship and big race, like Bathurst it started with. He won GT World Challenge. He won various championship titles as a BMW driver, so he's come back here full of confidence as the new teammate this year at Schubert Motorsport to Marco Wittmann. So that will be a formidable pairing for sure. So he is back, but we've got 4 proper newcomers as well. Bastian Buus is coming in, former Porsche champion. He's in with Land Motorsport, who had that great season last year. Unexpected season, really, where they came in. They weren't expecting to be competing in the DTM. Certainly Riccardo Feller wasn't expecting to be driving with them in an Audi. The Audi, for most of the season that he ran, was the one that he won the 2021 GT Masters title with, and which had been put into retirement for a number of years. He was meant to be, he is a Porsche factory driver these days, the Swiss driver, formerly finishing 3rd in the championship a few years ago. He was meant to be here with Porsche last year. The team that he was meant to race with, unfortunately, fell by the wayside, so he had a last-minute deal to come back as an Audi driver. But Land are back this year, and they're, ironically, back with a Porsche, but they're not here with Riccardo Feller, although he is on the grid. Riccardo takes the car of the reigning champion, the Green Machine, run by Manthey, the Porsche. So he is making his Porsche debut in terms of the DTM, Riccardo Feller. And in the Porsche that Land Motorsport have got, we've got Bastian Buus as our second Danish driver on the grid, joining Nicky Tim, who you can see now, who is in an Aston Martin, not for the first time by a long stretch. He's been an Aston Martin factory driver for a long, long time, but it's actually the first time he's going to race an Aston Martin in the DTM, having raced Lamborghinis up until this point. Sebastian Buus is on the grid. We've got Marco Mappelli on the grid, one of 3 Italians that's on the grid this season, the 38-year-old former Italian GT champion, former champion in the Blancpain Endurance Championship. He joins the grid with Abt in their Lamborghini. We've got Finn Wiebelhaus, who has got here off the back of the Road to DTM programme, which is aimed at bringing young talent all the way up through from karting to GT4 through to GT Masters, where he won the championship title last year, and ultimately to get to GT3 racing and the DTM. And Finn Wiebelhaus, a Mercedes driver this year, Mustang driver this year, is going to be racing on the grid as one of the youngest drivers out there, joining another young driver, Tom Callender, who is a Mercedes driver and who had his first season in the championship last year. So a couple of young guns coming through. Finn Wiebelhaus will definitely be one to watch as last year's GT Masters champion. And Matteo Caroli is the other addition to the grid, and he's basically driving the car that Jack Aitken went so well in last year, was so unlucky with at the end of the season, and ended up having led the championship for a lot of the time, not winning the championship. And he's in the Emile Frey Racing Ferrari, the number 14 car. So those are the additional drivers. But Brian, there's a lot of drivers switching teams, switching cars, and teams bringing new cars. And I guess the key talking point in terms of the cars and new cars this year is going to be the Lamborghini. 4 new Lamborghini Temeraries replacing the Hurricanes at both Grasser Racing, who are here very much at their home circuit, because the team is based at Nittelfeld, which is only about 5-6 kilometres away from the track. Gottfried Grasser's team. So they've got 2 of them, and the other 2 are being run by Abt, who ran Lamborghinis for the first time in DTM last year with the Hurricanes. So a brand new car, and it really is brand new. It's the teams have only took delivery of it a matter of weeks ago.
Yes, it's been developed exclusively by Lamborghini as opposed to the previous Huracan, which was developed in collaboration with Audi. It's something a bit different. It's got a twin turbo rather than naturally aspirated V10 as we look at Lucas Auer in the shoebox, as it will now be known.
I love that livery.
It's wonderful, cool. Isn't it? Wonderful. But the Temerario, as you'd expect, it's the only absolutely brand new model from top to bottom effectively on the grid, and it's taken a bit of development. I think it's probably taken the teams a little longer than they'd hoped for to get it up to speed, and I think it is going to be very much a development year for the Temerario. Not quite where they want to be with it yet, but when you've got the likes of Grasser and Abt developing it, and you've got the kind of talent that you have behind the wheel, then it's surely not going to be too long before they're on the pace. The Mustang's also got an Evo pack for this year. The Porsche's a new GT3 car, although pretty similar to the previous one, and the Ferrari also with an Evo upgrade. So new cars on the circuits and in the series. Maybe one of the things we were saying over the winter, that actually the drivers and teams that have remained unchanged over the winter, the likes of Thomas Preining at Manthey,
all the Mercedes
likes
drivers,
of Lucas, all the Mercedes drivers, probably certainly starting the season off with something of an advantage. I don't know if you call it an advantage, but certainly they're in the groove already. They know what they're doing. They're not developing new machinery.
Well, Mirko Bortolotti, who's gone back to Grasser, where he started his DTM journey. We got the first podium ever for Lamborghini, the DTM, a number of years ago. He was with Abt last year because he was with SSR Performance and won the championship title with them in a Lamborghini Huracan 2 years ago. And he said, look, it's going to be a development year. Don't have your expectations too high. We're learning this car. He said, it might be a Lamborghini. It feels nothing like the Huracan. It's totally different to drive. We're learning about it all the time. Grasser have had their car a little bit longer than Abt because they were competing also in the GT World Challenge Europe with a Lamborghini Temerario, so they had to get theirs a little bit earlier because they were racing a few weeks ago in the opening round of GT World Challenge. The endurance race that they had at Paul Ricard, whereas Abt only using that car in the DTM. They are using a Lamborghini at the Nürburgring 24 Hours again, Abt, or Red Bull Abt as they are now called for this season, with their title sponsor being Red Bull, with whom they've had a connection for a number of years now. But at the 24-hour race, Abt are going to be using the tried and trusted Huracan, so that's why they didn't get theirs till more recently. I spoke to Leon Wippersteg in the paddock yesterday, where everybody was setting up. Now, he's the race engineer previously to Kelvin van der Linde at Abt. He was the race engineer last year to Mirko Bortolotti, but he stepped up now, so he's overseeing the GT3 program, DTM and elsewhere, as kind of a chief technical bod, and he said we only got one of our Temerarios 4 weeks ago, and the other one we only got 2.5 weeks ago. So the first time we actually turned a wheel in anger was at the official test here last week. So there's a lot to catch up on. But as Mirko Bortolotti said in an interview last week, like, I'm looking forward to the challenge. I was around to develop the Huracan when it was first being brought into GT3 racing 12 years ago, and it ended up being a real winner, didn't it? Yes. A championship-winning car.
Top job.
So yeah, as you say, it's a very different car. It's a V8 rather than the Huracan, which is a V10. The engine is smaller in terms of capacity, 4 litres rather than 5.2 litres. And it's twin turbo rather than normally aspirated, so 577 brake horsepower. It's a little bit heavier, it's a little bit longer, but not as wide. It's a fair bit narrower actually than the Huracan, which was 2.2 metres wide. It's only 2.05 metres wide.
Just looking at the local wildlife here that are about to get the shock of their lives, you might be wondering what is occurring here, because there's not a lot going out on track. We've already said this is a qualifying simulation, so as is the way in DTM, the cars come out, they do an installation lap, and then they go back into the garage. And it's not that they're killing time. The heat soak sequence, where the heat that they've generated in the tyres and in the brakes is allowed just to get those tyres into the window. No tyre warmers allowed in the DTM. So from that early lap that you saw at the beginning of this session, the heat now is hopefully transferred from the brakes through the rims into the tyres, and there's a bit of grip going to be available. So now the cars started to come out of the pit lane. So this is kind of like a dress rehearsal of what we're going to see tomorrow and Sunday morning, where you get the first 10 minutes of watching the Austrian wildlife and the second 10 minutes where we've got cars on track going hell for leather. But now suddenly, I think we've got pretty well, most of the cars either on track or about to head out on track. I've just seen Thomas Preining come past the window as well. So it's now about to get quite noisy, and we're finally, after the long, hard winter, going to find out who's quick and who isn't.
No, we won't. Not till tomorrow.
Not till tomorrow. So, did anybody mention the word bag or indeed sand? As we look at the disco snail in the hands of Finn Wiebelhaus circulating around the circuit. It'd be good because Finn Wiebelhaus, of course, won the GT Masters Championship. He won the Road to DTM. He's the first driver to have ever successfully completed the Road to DTM, the first driver to have won it in GT Masters and then have made that final step into DTM. He is a hugely talented driver, one of the absolute up-and-coming superstars. It is going to be a steep learning curve for him this year, so I think expectations are moderated. But very excited to have Finn here.
Yeah, well, we saw with Tom Callender, who'd done the same thing, come in as a teenage racer off the back of winning the GT Masters Championship in 2024. He raced in DTM last year, but he got better and better as the season went on. It's such a competitive field to come into in DTM. You're racing against guys that have been doing this for absolutely years and have raced all around the world and know the cars inside out and backwards for the large part. And Tom scored regular points in the second half of last year and got his best finish so far in the final weekend of the season at Hockenheim. Finn Wiebelhaus, just 19 years of age, GT Masters champion with Salmon Vega last year, and he's come up through with HRT as well, Ford HRT Racing, who run the Ford Mustang. So he's taken the place of Fabio Scherer, who was very unlucky, if you remember, at this race last year at the Red Bull Ring when it looked like he was absolutely on course for a podium, and then unfortunately suffered a drive shaft issue, if I remember correctly. But the Mustang went really well here last year, so he comes in alongside Arjun Maini, who loves this place. He had his best ever weekend at the Red Bull Ring so far in DTM. Bauer is a Mercedes driver, got pole and 2 podium finishes a couple of years ago when he was with the Mercedes. So we'll see how Finn gets on that bright pink and white Ford Mustang and the upgrade package on that, the Evo package on that. Lots of new bits on the Ford Mustang, but speaking to Ali Fritz, the team principal, yesterday, he said it's the front end that we're trying to get sorted out, so it's a little bit more stable. It's got a new front splitter on it, it's got various parts on it, but the Mustang certainly making good progress last year. Team radio from Maro Engel.
So right now you have the best gap on track. It looks really good.
You mentioned the HRT Mustangs, and we bumped into Arjun Maini in the pit lane yesterday, and he was grinning from ear to ear. I mean, he normally is anyway, but he says it's been a long, hard winter. I cannot wait to get out on track. He's a man who's just brimming with confidence, and it almost feels like since they've switched to the Mustang, almost like the pressure's off, and he's just loving life and loving racing. At the moment, well, our best lap, a 131.976, so that's not remotely representative, but Lucas Auer is the quickest car on track at the moment. So
the test session last week, and you never know what everybody's doing in terms of what fuel loads they've got on, what they're trying. They're trying long runs, they're trying short runs, they're not necessarily got the freshest tyres on. But Ben Durr was quickest, as you say, the McLaren going really well here. And Ben, at the end of the tests last week, a 128.199 second lap. That was only half a second away from Rennie Rast's best lap time that got in pole position and a lap record in 2023. And if that's on a test day, then you might expect that when we get to qualifying, and if the weather's like this, and we're normally here in September, we're here in April this year for the season opener, then maybe we're going to see that lap record for him being broken. And part of the reason for that is we've got a new tyre for this year from Pirelli, and the tyre has been developed for sole exclusive use in the DTM. So as previously, Pirelli tyres that were used in DTM were also the same tyres that you would have seen in GT Masters, you would have seen in other championships. You only see this specific compound of tyre run in the DTM. It's been designed for this. It looks a quick tyre. It's going to be interesting to see how it heats up. whether it heats up a little bit quicker, because there's no tyre warmers allowed, as Brian said, once you come out of a pit stop, for example. In qualifying, you've got to get the tyres up to temperature. But they've been doing a lot of testing with the tyre, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But certainly the lap times looked good. Bender quickest last week. Jules Gounon was actually quickest in the morning, but he only did the morning last week because he had to get on a flight straight off to go and race in the World Endurance Championship at Imola. So he ended up second, but he only did half the day. A 1:28.217 for Jules Gounon, back for his second season, looking for his first DTM win in 2026. Thomas Preining, the champion of 2023, was third quickest with a 1:28.354. Lucas Auer was fourth quickest, 1:28.4. Tom Callender was fifth, 1:28.4 as well. And Timo Glock, off the back of a pretty torrid return to the DTM last year, was quick. He was sixth overall in the other McLaren. However, he also had some issues with the car, and he only managed 61 laps, Timo. Had lots of vibration coming from the steering wheel, did the fewest laps of all drivers, and he barely ran in the afternoon. There were also an issue with Kelvin van der Linde's BMW, which didn't do many laps at all in the morning. 3 laps in the morning, had an oil pump problem, and then wasn't particularly quick in the afternoon. So it wasn't a great test, but I suppose you get the dramas out of the way early on. And just to bring you up to speed with what happened this morning in the first free practice session, Bender was quickest there as well with a 1:28.567. Lucas Auer was second in the Mercedes. Jules Gounon was third in the Mercedes. Tom Callender was fourth in the Mercedes. And Thierry Vermeulen was up there as well in fifth place in the Ferrari, ahead of another Mercedes, Maro Engel, who was in sixth place. So both last week and this morning so far, although it's the McLaren that's stolen the headlines, overall it's all the Mercedes that have been knocking on the door and all up there. And that maybe goes back to what you said about them coming back with consistent drivers, consistent team, the same car, the trusted old AMG, which seems like Landgraf have been running since 2018 now, but it still does a good job.
It does, yes. I mean, it's an old model, but it's blooming quick. And I'll tell you what, Maro Engel and Jules Gounon have just proven that, because Engel has just gone quicker. It's a 1:28.2. Jules Gounon second with a 1:28.3. So there's plenty of life in it yet. Finn Wiebelhaus up there as well, pressing hard. But yes, it's consistency, isn't it? With the new tyre, the idea of it is it enables faster warm-up times, more overtaking opportunities due to tyre wear, but also cost savings as well, hopefully with a tyre which is produced in Germany, manufactured at Pirelli's, I'm going to get this wrong, Breuberg site in Germany.
Yep.
Apologies to everyone pronouncers. But yes, so that's going to be a really interesting. It does mean that it's kind of an element of the unknown here as well, just not knowing how the tyre is going to react. We haven't actually run it in anger yet, as we look at some great slow-mos here. And Finn Wiebelhaus, he's right up there at the moment. He's in sixth place, but the benchmark in this free practice 2 session is Maro Engel.
For now, but Bender has set the absolute best first sector. Jules Gounon set the absolute best second sector, so they're both on quick laps at the moment. Maro Engel, top of the times with a 1:28.2. Again, only about half a second away from the qualifying lap record set by René Rast here at the Red Bull Ring 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, if you want to be really accurate about it. Gounon does go quickest with his lap. He completes the lap. He lost a little bit of time compared to others in the final sector, the third sector, but overall very good, 1:28.208. So this sets the tone, doesn't it? He's 0.02 of a second quicker than Maro Engel. I'm going to say thousandths of a second quite a lot this year, I reckon. Bender did improve his lap time. He went third quickest, and Luki Auer goes through, and he goes to the top of the times. Last year's vice champion with a 1:28.204, which means the top 3 are all within 0.06 of a second of each other now. You're right on board with Luki Auer. He's heading up towards the flat-out turn 2, which will take at 240 kilometres an hour or thereabouts. They won't hit the brakes to the top of the hill at turn 3, where you drop down to the slowest part of the circuit. It's first gear, it's about 60 kilometres an hour just over through there. He hits the apex, we're at the top of the hill now. It's a really steep climb up from turns 1 to 3, and it roller coasters a bit down and up Dale through the back of the circuit. Again, you're pushing over 240 kilometres an hour, getting towards Rauchkurve at the right-hander, which is downhill, and just put offline there by a car. I think it was the Matteo Caroli Ferrari that he had to get around. So now he roller coasters downhill, comes through his fantastic section. I love this roller coaster section down through at around 130 kilometers an hour into the left-hander, hovering on the throttle to get to the end of the second sector. Grass curve coming up next. The left-hander there, you see some lunges at times there. Going into the last sector, it continues to wind its way downhill. So it's a steep climb from turns 1 to 3, but it more gradually winds down hill all the way really through the middle of the lap, and even at the end of the lap, look, they're still going downhill, going to this really tricky right-hander at the end of the lap. Tricky because you don't want to run wide and miss track limits, but he bails off, goes into the pit lane, and probably ends the session because there's only 27 seconds left on the clock, and at the moment he's going to end it top of the times. 128.204 for Lugi Auer, 128.208 for Jules Gounon, 128.210 for Maro Engel. Bender 128.3 is fourth. Tom Callender 128.3 for him as well in fifth, and Timo Glock in sixth place, and Finn Wiebelhaus good start, seventh place overall.
Yeah, he was purple in Sector 1 on his last lap. I don't know how much the teams and drivers are wanting to show their hand at the moment, dare I say it. Certainly Finn was looking very quick at the start of that previous lap, but then kind of backed out of it in the latter part, as we see Lugi climbing from the shoebox, having done his free practice 2 session. Yeah, you're right. We still haven't got a clue who's really quick. But at the moment, if it wasn't for Ben Durr, it would be all 4 of the Mercedes in the top 4 places. So Ben Durr, the only one who's got in amongst there. But Timo Glock proving that the McLaren is very quick as well. Looking for a bit of luck. He needs to stop walking under ladders as we ride on board with Mirko Bortolotti.
Yeah, it looks a bit of a handful, doesn't it, the Temeraria? Look at him seesawing away at the wheel in the middle of the lap from the exterior. Yeah, he did. He was sent wide coming out into the gravel, so that was on the run out of turn 6. Yeah, it's the steering and the brakes, which you kind of want to be right on a racing car.
Yes.
That are reportedly 2 of the big areas they need to look at with the car, but having to develop it in very much the public eye. The checkered flag comes out on the session. There was a late improvement for Thierry Vermeulen, looking for his first DTM win this season, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it. He's a rapidly improving driver, and he went to 8th place. He's so far, I guess as you'd expect really, slightly had the edge in the tests and free practice sessions so far over his new teammate Matteo Caroli. I'm sure we'll talk about more as the weekend goes on, but he's a very welcome addition to the grid, Matteo. So Mirko Bortolotti getting out of the car, back with Grasser TGI, racing with Grasser, and with a new teammate we haven't talked about yet. Max Powell is his teammate this year, now a factory Lamborghini driver. Luca Engstler has gone the other way from Grasser to out to Red Bull Abt as well, and I'm sure he'll fit in absolutely brilliantly, I reckon, there in that family-run team, a big team, the most established team on the grid, but very much a family team, and I think Luca will fit in very well there. Marco Mappelli is going to be his teammate at Abt in that 4th Temeraria. So it is Lucas Auer that ends free practice 2, top of the times. That's a nice way to start the weekend on your home circuit. By just 0.004 of a second though from Jules Gounon. Maro Engel in 3rd within striking distance as well. All 3 of them covered by just 0.006 of a second. Ben Durr in 4th place continues his strong weekend so far. Tom Callender and Timo Glock 5th and 6th. Finn Wiebelhaus impressive in 7th. Thierry Vermeulen with a late improvement to 8th. Thomas Preining and Arjun Maini rounding out the top 10. So 2 Mustangs in the top 10. Marco Wittmann, the best of the BMWs, 11th from Ricardo Feller in his new role as Porsche Manthey driver in 12th. Cairoli in 13th. Engstler 14th. And then Boost 15th. Tim 16th. Kelvin van der Linde 17th, ahead of Mirko Bortolotti, Max Powell, Marco Mappelli, 3 Lamborghinis down there, and Nicola Bart in the Aston coming back in 21st place, but only just over a second separating 16 of them. And this was only free practice, although it was a qualifying type dummy run. To have a look at BOP, balance of performance. We'll see how the rest of the weekend pans out. There's another free practice to come, though, this afternoon. That will get underway at 4 p.m. local time and will be a 45-minute session. So the cars come in. We'll have lots more action for you over the weekend with that free practice session. And then, of course, qualifying 1 to come tomorrow morning ahead of the first race of 16 this season. Super slow-mos then of the man who we talked about a lot last year, Lucas Auer, now twice a runner-up in the DTM. Spoke to him yesterday. Always happy, always very positive, and he'll be very pleased to start the weekend here in Austria. Can he go one better than the 2025 season and snatch the championship this year? There's no doubt about it. Luigi is going to be one of the many championship hopefuls and likely championship contenders in what looks like another hugely competitive DTM season. So from Brian Oliver and me, Chris Hartley, thanks for your company. We'll speak to you again for free practice 3 this afternoon. Bye for now.